Dae-hyun floated near the observation window of Kepler 9 station, watching the stars like he did every morning. The coffee in his magnetic cup was cold, but he didn't care. Out here, on the edge of known space, small comforts didn't matter much. What mattered was the work, the discovery, the chance to learn about life forms that most humans would never see. The alarm on his console beeped. Something was drifting in the debris field outside the station. Probably just more space junk, he thought. But his job as a xenobiologist meant checking everything. You never knew what might be floating out there. He pulled up the scanner data. The object was small, maybe 2 meters long, metal, definitely artificial. His heart beat faster. Anything artificial this far from civilization was worth investigating. Hyunwoo, he called into his communicator. I'm seeing something in Sector 7. Going to suit up and check it out. Again? His colleague's voice crackled back. Dae-hyun, the last 3 times it was just broken satellites. 4th time's the charm, Dae-hyun said. Already heading to the airlock. 20 minutes later, he was outside, tethered to the station, pulling himself toward the object. As he got closer, he could see it was a cargo pod. Old, damaged, but still intact. Strange symbols covered its surface. His translator device flickered as it tried to read them. Vrathka. The word appeared on his helmet display. Dae-hyun's blood went cold. The Vrathka were the most feared species in the galaxy. Predators. Killers. Their empire had destroyed entire civilizations. The Galactic Council had quarantined their space decades ago. No contact. No exceptions. He should have turned back right then. Should have reported it and let the Council handle it. But something made him look closer. The pod had a small window. He shined his light through it. Inside, something moved. It was small, covered in dark purple scales with 4 legs and a tail. A Vrathka cub. Dae-hyun had seen pictures in restricted files, but never imagined he would see one in person. The creature was tiny, barely the size of a large cat. It wasn't moving much. Dying, he realized. Maybe already dead. Then he saw its chest rise and fall. Shallow breaths. Still alive. On the cub's forehead, someone had burned a mark into its scales, a symbol his translator identified as a death mark. This cub had been thrown away, left to die in the cold of space. Dae-hyun looked back at the station. He could leave it here, pretend he never saw it. That would be the smart choice. The safe choice. Contact with Vrathka was punishable by death under council law. They didn't make exceptions even for dying babies. The cub's eyes opened slightly. They were bright yellow, like 2 small suns. They looked at him through the window. Not with aggression, not with the killing instinct the Vrathka were famous for. The cub looked scared. Alone. Damn it. Dae-hyun whispered. He attached the pod to his tether and pulled them both back to the station. His hands shook inside his gloves. What was he doing? This was insane. This could get him killed. Could get everyone on the station killed. But he couldn't leave it out there. Back inside the airlock, Dae-hyun worked quickly. He sealed the inner doors and activated the decontamination sequence. Then he opened the pod. The smell hit him first. Blood and waste and sickness. The cub was worse than he thought. Its scales were dull, several were missing. Deep cuts covered its small body. One of its back legs was bent wrong. It had been hurt badly before being thrown away. Dae-hyun carefully lifted the creature. It was so light. It should have weighed more. Starvation, he realized. They had starved it first. What did they do to you? He said softly. The cub made a sound, something between a whimper and a growl. Dae-hyun carried it to his lab. His hands moved on instinct, years of training taking over. He set up a heated containment unit, scanned the cub's biology, checked for diseases. The data that came back was fascinating and horrible at the same time. The cub was female, about 3 months old. She was severely malnourished and dehydrated. Her broken leg had been that way for weeks. But it was the genetic scan that made Dae-hyun stop and stare. There was a mutation in her brain structure, an abnormality that affected the part of the brain that processed emotions and social bonding. In most species, this would be minor. But in Vrathka, who were evolved to be solitary hunters without empathy or attachment, this mutation changed everything. This cub could form emotional bonds. She could feel affection, love, things that Vrathka were not supposed to feel. That's why they marked her for death. That's why they threw her away. They called you defective, Dae-hyun said, looking at the small creature breathing in the containment unit. But you're not. You're just different. The door to his lab opened. Hyunwoo stood there staring. Tell me that's not what I think it is, Hyunwoo said. I found her dying, Daehyun said. I couldn't just leave her. Do you know what you've done? Hyunwoo's voice was rising. That's a Vrathka. Do you know what the council does to people who harbor them? They execute everyone on the station. Everyone? She's 3 months old and weighs less than my boots, Daehyun said calmly. She's not a threat, not now. But in a year, 2 years, Vrathka grow fast. They're apex predators. She'll kill us all! Daehyun pulled up the genetic scan on his display. Look at this. She's different. She has the capacity for bonding, for emotional connection. She's not like other Vrathka. Hyunwoo stared at the data. His anger faded into something else. Fear, maybe, or curiosity. This could change everything we know about them, Hyunwoo said quietly. If nurture can override nature? Exactly. It's still illegal. The council will kill us. Then we don't tell them, Daehyun said. The next inspection isn't for 6 months. By then, maybe I'll have enough data to prove she's safe, to prove that Vrathka aren't born monsters. Hyunwoo was quiet for a long time. Then he sighed. You're going to get us all killed. Does that mean you'll help? Another long pause. What are you going to call her? Daehyun looked at the purple markings on the cub's scales. They reminded him of home, of earth, of the word his grandmother had taught him for that particular shade of color. Bora, he said. Her name is Bora. The cub's eyes opened again at the sound. She looked at Daehyun through the glass of the containment unit. This time there was something different in those yellow eyes. Something that might have been trust. Daehyun smiled. He had just made the most dangerous decision of his life. He had broken the most serious law in the galaxy. He had probably doomed himself and everyone he cared about. But looking at Bora, watching her breathe a little easier in the warmth of the containment unit, he knew he would do it again. Sometimes the right choice wasn't the safe one. 6 months had passed since Daehyun found Bora in that cargo pod. She had grown, a lot. The small creature that once fit in his arms now stood as tall as his waist and was as long as he was tall. Her scales had become glossy and strong, colored in shades of deep purple and black. The cuts and scars had healed. Her leg was straight and strong now, but it wasn't her size that amazed Daehyun. It was everything else. Bora was smart, incredibly smart. Within 2 months, she had learned to understand spoken Korean and Galactic Common. Daehyun had started teaching her to read, showing her symbols on his tablet. She learned faster than any creature he had ever studied, faster than most humans. She also did something that should have been impossible. She loved. Every morning when Daehyun entered his lab, Bora would make a low rumbling sound in her chest. Not a growl. Something like a purr. She would press her head against his hand, careful not to scratch him with the small horns growing above her eyes. At night, she would curl up near his workstation while he wrote reports, one yellow eye always watching him. You know she thinks you're her parent, right? Hyunwoo said one day, watching Bora follow Daehyun around the lab. I know, Daehyun said. That's not supposed to happen. Vrathka don't have parents. They hatch and fight for survival immediately. No family structure. No bonding. Well, no one told Bora that, Daehyun said, scratching under her chin. She made that rumbling sound again. But the happiness couldn't last. Today was the day Daehyun had been dreading for months. Council Inspector Tae Yang was arriving with his team. A routine inspection, they said. But Daehyun knew better. Someone had reported unusual energy readings from Kepler-9. The council was suspicious. She has to hide, Hyunwoo said, pacing nervously. The lower maintenance levels. She can stay there until they leave. That's 3 days, Daehyun said. She won't understand why I'm leaving her down there. Would you rather she doesn't understand or that we all die? Hyunwoo's voice was sharp with fear. Daehyun knelt in front of Bora. She tilted her head, sensing his distress. He had been teaching her hand signals, a way to communicate silently. He made the sign for hide and pointed to the floor. Bora's eyes went wide. She made a questioning sound. I'm sorry, Daehyun said. People are coming. Dangerous people. You have to hide. I'll come get you soon. I promise. She seemed to understand. She always did. Bora touched her nose to his hand, then turned and walked toward the maintenance shaft. Before she climbed down, she looked back at him one more time. Those yellow eyes were sad. Daehyun's chest hurt watching her go. Inspector Tae Yang arrived exactly on schedule. He was human, tall and thin, with gray hair and cold eyes. He had a reputation. A man who followed every rule, who never showed mercy. People said he had once turned in his own brother for smuggling. Dr. Dae-hyun, Tae-yang said, his voice formal. We'll begin with your lab. The inspection was thorough. Too thorough. Tae-yang's team scanned everything, checked every file, every experiment. Tae-hyun tried to stay calm, but his hands were sweating. Had he cleaned up all traces of Bora? Had he deleted all the data? You've been using a lot of power, Tae-yang said, looking at the energy logs. More than your research requires. Where is it going? Equipment malfunctions, Dae-hyun lied. Old station. Things break down. Tae-yang's eyes narrowed. He didn't believe it. On the second day of the inspection, everything went wrong. Dae-hyun was showing Tae-yang the reactor room when alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. The station's AI area announced in a calm voice that seemed wrong for the situation. Coolant leak detected. Reactor temperature rising. Evacuation recommended. Jiwoo, the young engineer, came running. She was just 23, new to space stations. The main valve is stuck, she shouted over the alarms. I can't close it remotely. Someone has to go in there manually, Tae-yang said. He was already moving toward the reactor core. Whatever else he was, the man was brave. But Dae-hyun knew the layout better. He pushed past Tae-yang. I'll go. I know where the manual override is. The reactor room was hot. Too hot. Dae-hyun could feel it through his suit. The valve was behind a collapsed panel. He would have to move debris weighing hundreds of kilos. Impossible for one person. He tried anyway. The heat was getting worse. He could see the reactor core through the window, glowing brighter. If it melted down, the explosion would kill everyone on the station. Something moved in the shadows. Bora emerged from a maintenance duct. She must have heard the alarms. Must have known something was wrong. She had come to find him. No, Dae-hyun said. Go back, hide. But Bora didn't hide. She looked at the fallen panel, then at Dae-hyun. She understood what needed to happen. She moved to the debris and started pushing with her powerful legs. The muscles under her scales rippled. Slowly, the panel began to move. Bora, you'll be seen, Dae-hyun said desperately. She kept pushing. The panel fell away. The valve was exposed. Dae-hyun turned it. The wheel was stiff, resistant. He put all his strength into it. Behind him, he heard footsteps. Tae-yang and Jiwoo had entered the reactor room. They saw Bora. Jiwoo screamed. Tae-yang froze, his hand moving to his weapon. The valve finally turned. The coolant flow stopped. The alarms began to quiet. The reactor was stable. In the sudden silence, everyone stared at Bora. She stared back, positioning herself between Dae-hyun and the others. Protecting him. That's a Vrathka, Tae-yang said. His voice was very quiet. Very dangerous. You're harboring a Vrathka. She saved your life, Dae-hyun said, stepping in front of Bora. She saved all of us. That doesn't matter. The law is clear. Look at her, Dae-hyun said. Really look. Does she look like the monsters you've heard about? She's been on this station for 6 months. She's hurt no one. She's helped us. She's different. Tae-yang's weapon was out now, pointed at Bora. His hand was shaking. My sister was killed by Vrathka raiders, he said. They destroyed her colony ship. 300 people. They killed them all for sport. Bora didn't do that, Dae-hyun said. She's not them. She will be. It's in their nature. Nature can be changed, Dae-hyun said. I have 6 months of data proving it. She has a genetic mutation that allows her to bond, to feel empathy. That's why her own kind threw her away. They saw her capacity for love as a defect. Bora made a soft sound. She was looking at Tae-yang, her head lowered. Not aggressive, almost apologetic. Jiwoo, who had been silent and terrified, spoke up. She could have run when the alarm started. She could have escaped in the chaos. But she came to help instead. Tae-yang was breathing hard. His weapon was still raised. Minutes passed. The longest minutes of Dae-hyun's life. Finally, Tae-yang lowered his gun. I must be insane, he said. Completely insane. You're not going to report her? Hyunwoo asked, having just arrived at the door. I'm going to report that Kepler-9 is in full compliance with all regulations, Tae-yang said. I'm going to report that I found nothing unusual. He looked at Bora. But if I ever hear that she's hurt someone, that she's become what her species is known for, I will come back. And I will finish this. Do you understand? Dae-hyun nodded. She won't, I promise. Tae-yang and his team left the next day. In his official report, he wrote that Kepler-9 was operating normally. He mentioned nothing about Bora. But as his ship pulled away from the station, Taeyang looked back at the small outpost. He had broken the most important rule of his career. He had seen Avrathka and let it live. He should have felt guilty. Ashamed, instead, he felt something he hadn't felt since his sister died. He felt hope. Hope that maybe the galaxy could be different, that maybe monsters could be made, not born, and if they could be made, perhaps they could be unmade too. On Kepler 9, Daehyun sat with Bo-Ra in his lab. She rested her large head on his knee, making that rumbling sound she made when she was content. "We got lucky," he told her. "So lucky. But people know now. It won't be long before others find out." Bo-Ra looked up at him with those bright yellow eyes. If she understood the danger, she didn't show it. She just stayed close like she always did. And Daehyun knew with absolute certainty that he would protect her no matter what came next. 1 year had passed since the inspection. Bo-Ra was now fully grown, massive, and powerful. She stood taller than Daehyun at the shoulder, her body sleek with muscle under those purple and black scales. Her claws could tear through steel. Her jaws could crush bone. She was everything the galaxy feared about Vrathka, except for one thing. She was gentle. Daehyun had published his research. Not openly, of course. That would have been suicide. But in encrypted papers shared through underground scientific channels, he had documented everything. How Bo-Ra learned, how she formed emotional bonds, how her mutation affected her behavior. He titled the paper, Environmental Influence on Predator Species Development, and never mentioned Bo-Ra by name. But scientists were smart. They connected the dots. Within months, Daehyun's research was viral in academic circles. People were talking about it everywhere, debating it, arguing about it. Some called it brilliant. Others called it dangerous fantasy. The problem was people talked. And when people talk, the wrong people listen. It started with a transmission. Daehyun was in his lab when Arya announced, "Incoming message from Vrathka Space. Priority Alpha." Hyunwoo rushed in. "Don't answer it." "Just don't," but Daehyun had to know. He opened the channel. The face that appeared on the screen was something from nightmares. A Vrathka war leader, scales dark red with age and battle scars, eyes like burning coals, teeth designed to rip and tear. "Human," the Vrathka said in perfect galactic common. "We know what you have taken. Return the defective cub immediately, or your station will be destroyed. You have 3 days." The transmission ended. Daehyun's hands were shaking. Bo-Ra, sensing his distress, pressed against his side. She had been in the lab listening. She had understood every word. "They found out," Hyunwoo said, his voice barely a whisper. "How did they find out?" "Someone talked," Daehyun said. "Someone read my research and figured out it was real. They told the Vrathka." The next transmission came from the Galactic Council. Same message, different threat. "Dr. Daehyun, you are ordered to surrender the Vrathka specimen to Council custody. Failure to comply will result in your arrest and the closure of Kepler 9 station." Then came a third transmission, this one from Earth, a military frequency. Admiral Kiwan appeared on screen, a stern woman with sharp eyes. "Dr. Daehyun, the Earth Defense Force is aware of your situation. We're prepared to offer military protection if you choose not to surrender your research subject." "Research subject?" Hyunwoo said bitterly. "They don't care about Bo-Ra, they just want to study her. Use her." Daehyun looked at Bo-Ra. She was watching the screen, trying to understand what was happening. He had taught her so much over the past year. Language, mathematics, history. She could use a translation device now. Could communicate complex thoughts. But some things were still hard for her to grasp. Like why her own species wanted her dead. "What do we do?" Jiwoo asked. She had become part of their small group, helping care for Bo-Ra, teaching her about engineering. "We can't give her up," Daehyun said. "I won't." "Then we fight?" Hyunwoo asked. Before Daehyun could answer, Bo-Ra moved to the console. Her claws were too large for the keyboard. But she had learned to use a special interface. She typed slowly, "Not your choice. My life. My choice." The words appeared on everyone's screen. Bo-Ra. "No," Daehyun said. She typed again. "They come for me. I face them. Not you." "You don't understand what you're saying," Daehyun said. "They'll kill you." Bo-Ra turned to look at him. In her yellow eyes, he saw something that broke his heart. She understood perfectly. She just didn't care. She would rather die than let them be hurt because of her. The 3 days passed too quickly. A Vrathka warship arrived. dark and menacing, bristling with weapons. Behind it came 3 council ships, and behind them, keeping their distance, a human military cruiser. The galaxy was watching. News feeds from a dozen species broadcast the standoff. Everyone wanted to see what would happen when a human refused to give up a Vrathka. The Vrathka ship sent another transmission. This time a different face appeared. Younger but no less terrifying. "I am Kreshtar, champion of the Vrathka Empire. I come for the defective one. Send her out or we will take her." Daehyun was about to refuse when Bora stepped in front of the camera. Kreshtar's eyes widened. Even through the screen, even across the distance of space, Daehyun could see the shock on the war champion's face. Bora used her translation device. Her voice, mechanical but clear, filled the bridge. "I am Bora. I am not defective. I am evolved." Silence. Complete silence from the Vrathka ship. Then Kreshtar spoke, his voice different now. Uncertain. "You speak? You use their technology? I learn, I grow. I choose," Bora said. "You call me defective because I bond. But I am strong because I feel. Strong because I choose my family." "Family is weakness," Kreshtar said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Family is strength," Bora responded. "Alone I am strong. With family I am unstoppable." Something was happening on the Vrathka ship. Daehyun could see movement, hear voices arguing in the background. Kreshtar looked off screen, listening to someone. When he looked back, his expression had changed. The defective one must return. For trial? For judgment? "No," Daehyun said, stepping beside Bora. "She stays here. Then we take her by force." "Try." Admiral Kiwan's voice cut in from the human ship. "I have 6 more cruisers 3 hours away. You'll start a war. For one defective cub?" Kreshtar said. "Humans would die for this?" "This human would," Daehyun said. "And I'm not alone." More transmissions started coming in. Scientists from dozens of worlds demanding Bora be protected. Students protesting outside council buildings. Even some council members speaking out, questioning the law that demanded her death. The galaxy was splitting. Some called Daehyun a hero. Others called him a fool. But everyone was watching. Everyone was talking. Kreshtar looked troubled. Finally, he said, "There is another way. The old way. Trial by combat. If the defective one can defeat me, she earns the right to choose her path. If she loses, she dies. This is Vrathka law." "No," Daehyun said immediately. "She wasn't raised as a warrior. She doesn't know how to fight like you do." "Then she dies without honor," Kreshtar said. "These are the only choices." Bora placed a claw gently on Daehyun's shoulder. "I accept," she said through her translator. "Bora, you can't—" "My choice," she said firmly. Then softer, "Trust me." Daehyun wanted to refuse, wanted to grab her and run, to hide her somewhere in the galaxy where no one would find them. But when he looked into her eyes, he saw determination, confidence. She believed she could do this. 2 days, Bora said to Kreshtar. "I prepare. Then we fight." Kreshtar nodded slowly. 2 days. On neutral ground. The council station. The transmission ended. Hyunwoo grabbed Daehyun's arm. "She can't win. She's never fought another Vrathka. Kreshtar is a war champion. He's killed hundreds in combat." "I know," Daehyun said. "Then stop her." "I can't," Daehyun said. "It's her choice." She said it herself. Her life, her choice. The next 2 days were terrible. Daehyun tried to help Bora prepare. But how do you teach someone to fight when you don't know fighting yourself? He showed her videos of Vrathka combat. She watched carefully, those yellow eyes studying every move. "You fight different," she observed. "You fight to kill. Only to kill. That's how they fight," Daehyun said. "Not how I fight," Bora said. She touched his face gently with one claw. "You teach me different way. You teach me strength and mercy, strength and choice. I fight my way." The day of the combat arrived too soon. They traveled to the council station on the human cruiser. Subin, the pilot who had been bringing them supplies for months, flew them personally. She had become a friend, one of the few people who knew about Bora. "Whatever happens," Subin said, "I'm proud to have known you both." The arena was huge, filled with representatives from 100 worlds. Everyone wanted to witness this. The defective Vrathka against the war champion. The humans' experiment against tradition. Kreshtar was already waiting, massive and scarred, every inch a killer. Bora walked out to meet him. She looked small next to him, despite her size. Young, untested. Dae-hyun wanted to scream to stop this, but he stayed silent. He had to trust her. After everything, he had to trust her. The fight was about to begin. The arena floor was bare metal, cold and unforgiving. Thousands watched from the viewing galleries above, beings from hundreds of worlds. Cameras broadcast the fight across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see if the defective Vrathka could survive against a war champion. Dae-hyun stood at the edge of the arena with Hyunwoo, Jiwoo, and Subin. His hands gripped the railing so hard his knuckles were white. He couldn't breathe properly. This was wrong. All wrong. Bora stood in the center of the arena, facing Kreshtar. The war champion was twice her size, covered in scars from countless battles. His scales were dark red, almost black. His claws had killed more beings than Dae-hyun could count. "Last chance to surrender," Kreshtar said, his voice echoing through the arena. "Die with whatever honor a defective can have." Bora's response came through her translator, clear and steady. "I am not defective. I am not surrendering. I am choosing to fight." A council official, an elderly human woman named Youngja, stepped forward. She had been the one to arrange this trial, the one who believed that perhaps Bora deserved a chance. "This is a challenge under old Vrathka law," Youngja announced. "The combat ends when one fighter yields or dies. There are no other rules." She stepped back. The arena fell silent. Then Kreshtar moved. He was fast, terrifyingly fast for something so large. He crossed the arena in seconds, claws extended, jaws open. A killing strike meant to end the fight immediately. Bora dodged. Not with the aggressive counterattack a Vrathka warrior would use, but with a smooth, calculated movement. She had been watching the videos Dae-hyun showed her. She had learned the patterns. Kreshitar's claws struck empty air. He spun, snarling, and attacked again. A flurry of strikes, each one deadly. Bora avoided them all, moving like water. Never quite where Kreshitar expected her to be. "She's just running," someone in the crowd shouted. "Fight!" But Dae-hyun understood. She wasn't running. She was learning. Watching. Studying how Kreshitar moved, how he thought, what patterns he followed. Kreshitar was getting frustrated. "Stand and fight, defective one."
"Stop hiding."
"Not hiding," Bora said. Thinking, that made Kreshitar angry. He roared and charged again, putting all his strength into a devastating attack. His claws raked across Bora's shoulder, drawing first blood. Purple blood splashed on the metal floor. Dae-hyun gasped. Hyunwoo grabbed his arm. "She's hurt." But Bora didn't seem to notice the wound. She finally struck back, a precise hit to Kreshitar's front leg. Not a killing blow. A disabling one. The war champion stumbled. The crowd went crazy. A defective had drawn blood from a champion. Kreshitar recovered quickly, but now he was cautious. He circled Bora, studying her the way she had studied him. "You fight strange," he said. "Not like Vrathka." "I am not like other Vrathka," Bora responded. "That's why I'm strong." They clashed again. This time it was more even. Bora had stopped just defending. She was attacking now, but not with mindless aggression. Every strike had purpose. Every movement was calculated. They fought for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Both were bleeding now. Both were tired. The arena floor was slippery with purple blood. Then Kreshitar made a mistake. He left his side exposed for just a second. Bora saw it and struck, her claws digging deep into his ribs. Kreshitar roared in pain and collapsed. Bora stood over him. The war champion was down, wounded, defeated. In traditional Vrathka combat, this was the moment for the killing blow. The crowd waited. The galaxy watched. Bora raised her claw. Kreshitar closed his eyes, ready for death. The claw came down and stopped just before his throat. "I could kill you," Bora said quietly, "but I choose mercy." The arena erupted in chaos. Beings shouting, arguing, some cheering, some angry. No one could believe what they just saw. A Vrathka showing mercy. It was unthinkable. Kreshitar's eyes opened. He stared up at Bora in complete shock. "Why?" he whispered. "Why spare me?" "Because strength is not in taking life," Bora said. "Strength is in choosing when to spare it. My human family taught me this." Something changed in Kreshitar's expression. The hatred, the certainty, all of it crumbled. "Human family," he repeated. "You really believe that?" "I know it," Bora said. She stepped back, letting him stand. Kreshitar rose slowly, favoring his wounded side. He looked at Bora for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone even more than the mercy. He bowed his head, a gesture of respect. "I was born like you," Kreshitar said, his voice carrying through the now silent arena. "With the defect, with the ability to feel, to bond. But the trainers found me early. They beat it out of me, tortured me until I learned to suppress it, until I became what a Vrathka should be." The crowd was completely silent now. This was a confession no one expected. "I hated myself for being weak," Kreshitar continued. "I killed hundreds trying to prove I wasn't defective. But seeing you, seeing your strength and mercy, I remember what I lost, what they took from me." He turned to address the crowd, his voice growing stronger. "She is not defective. She is what we could be, what we should be. The humans call it evolution. We call it weakness. But look at her. She defeated me, a war champion, because she thinks differently, feels differently." Young Jaw stepped forward. "The challenge is complete. Bora has won the right to choose her path." But before anyone could celebrate, new alarms started blaring. The station's defense systems activated. On the view screens, a massive fleet appeared. Vrathka warships, hundreds of them. A new transmission came through. An ancient Vrathka, scales pale with age, appeared on every screen in the station. "I am Velkaris, High Elder of the Vrathka Empire. We have heard Kreshitar's words. We have seen the defective one's victory. This cannot stand." "The challenge was honored," Youngjaw said. "Bora won fairly." "The challenge is irrelevant," Velkaris said. "What Kreshitar revealed is the problem. The defect is spreading. More cubs are born with it every year. If we do not stop it now, our entire species will become weak, emotional, human-like." "You mean compassionate," Daehyun shouted. "You mean capable of love." "We mean weak," Velkaris said coldly. "All defective cubs will be destroyed, including this one. We come to cleanse our species." The human ships moved to intercept, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Admiral Kiwan's voice came through. "We can't win this fight. There are too many." "Then we run," Subin said, already moving toward her ship. "We get Bora out of here." But Bora wasn't moving. She was looking at Kreshitar, who was staring at the fleet with an expression Daehyun had never seen on a Vrathka face before. "Anguish." "How many?" Bora asked him. "How many cubs like us?" "Thousands," Kreshitar said. "Maybe tens of thousands now. They're hunting them all." Bora turned to Daehyun. "I run, they die. All of them. Cubs like me. Cubs who could be like me if given the chance." "Bora, you can't fight a fleet," Daehyun said desperately. "Not fight," Bora said. "Talk." Before anyone could stop her, Bora opened a broadcast channel. Her voice through the translator reached every ship in the system. "Every being watching across the galaxy. I am Bora, you call me defective. You want to kill me and all like me. But I ask you to look at what I have done. I learned, I grew. I defeated your champion with mercy, not murder. I chose love over hate. Is this weakness? Or is this the strength you fear?" She paused, then continued. "You say the defect is spreading. I say evolution is happening. Your species is changing, growing beyond what it was. You can kill us all, kill every cub with this gift. But evolution does not stop. More will be born, again and again, until you destroy yourselves trying to stop change." Silence from the fleet. Daehyun held his breath. Then on one of the Vrathka ships, something happened. A junior officer, visible on the bridge camera, removed his helmet. His scales showed the marking. He was one of them. One of the defective ones. "I will not kill younglings," the officer said. "Not anymore." Another Vrathka stepped forward on a different ship. Then another. And another. Dozens, then hundreds. All revealing themselves. All refusing the orders. Velkaris' face on the screen was twisted with rage and fear. "Traitors! All of you!" But his fleet was fracturing. Ships were powering down weapons. Some were even turning away. Kreshitar stepped beside Bora. "I stand with her," he announced. "I will lead those who choose change over extinction." The galaxy watched as the Vrathka Empire split in two. Some ships stayed loyal to the Elders. Others joined Kreshitar. It wasn't a victory. It was the beginning of a civil war. But it was also the beginning of hope. Daehyun pulled Bora close, careful of her wounds. "What have we started?" he whispered. "Change," Bora said simply. "We started change." 5 years had passed since the battle at the Council Station. 5 years since the galaxy watched the Vrathka Empire tear itself apart. 5 years since one human's choice to save a dying cub changed everything. Dae-hyun stood on the balcony of the Interspecies Bonding Institute, watching the sunset over New Earth's capital city. The building behind him was massive, filled with students from dozens of worlds, all learning what he had discovered by accident. That love could cross any barrier. That family was choice, not biology. "You look tired," a mechanical voice said behind him. Bora's translator had improved over the years, but she still preferred it to speaking Galactic Common directly. "Long day," Dae-hyun said, smiling as she approached. She was even larger now, fully mature, her scales showing the deep colors of adulthood, but her eyes were the same. Kind, warm. His daughter, even if no genetics said so. "The council representatives are here," Bora said. "They want to talk about the treaty revisions." Dae-hyun sighed. Always politics. The Vrathka Civil War had officially ended 2 years ago with a treaty that split their territory. The traditional Vrathka Empire, led by the elders who rejected change. And the new Vrathka Collective, led by Kreshitar and others like him who embraced their evolution. But peace was fragile. Incidents still happened. Old hatreds died hard. Inside the institute, the meeting room was crowded. Hyunwoo was there, now co-director of the institute, his fear long replaced by pride in what they had built. Jiwoo had become the head of engineering, designing new technologies to help different species communicate and live together. Subin ran a transport service, rescuing abandoned cubs of all species, bringing them to safe places. And there were others now, students, researchers, diplomats, all working toward the same dream. A galaxy where being different wasn't a death sentence. Tae-yang was there too. The inspector who had risked everything to save Bora had left the council, unable to support their old laws anymore. Now he worked for reform, pushing for new policies that protected the vulnerable instead of destroying them. "We need to discuss the border incidents," Tae-yang said as everyone settled. 3 more defective cubs were found in traditional Vrathka space last month. The Empire executed them before we could intervene. The room fell silent. This was the hard part, the part that still hurt. They had saved thousands, but they couldn't save everyone. "We need access to their space," Youngja said. The elderly diplomat had become one of their strongest supporters in the council. "Legal permission to extract defective cubs before they're killed." "The Empire will never agree," Kreshitar said. He attended the meetings via hologram from New Vrathka space. His wounds from the fight with Bora had healed, but he walked with a slight limp now, a permanent reminder. "To them, we are the enemy. We threaten everything they believe." "Then we find another way," Bora said quietly. All eyes turned to her. "We save who we can. We teach others to save themselves. We don't give up." She was right, of course. She usually was. After the meeting, Dae-hyun walked with Bora through the institute grounds. It was beautiful here, designed to accommodate beings of all sizes and needs. Gardens for species who needed nature, water features for aquatic visitors, open spaces for those who flew. "I have something to show you," Bora said, leading him to a special section of the grounds, her section. Behind the main building, Bora had built her own dwelling, not because she had to, but because she wanted space to work, and because she had others living with her now. The first was a small creature, all fur and big eyes, from a species called the Mori. Her family had abandoned her because she was born deaf. Bora had found her and brought her home. The second was a young being from a water world, his species name unpronounceable in most languages. He had been left to die when his bioluminescence failed to develop. Bora taught him that light came from inside, not just from biology. The third was Vrathka, a cub, barely 6 months old, scales bright green. Born with the defect. Rescued by Subin's transport service before the traditional empire could find her. "You've adopted them," Dae-hyun said, watching Bora interact with each one, gentle and patient. "Like you adopted me," Bora said simply. Dae-hyun felt tears in his eyes. "You're building a family." "I am building many families," Bora corrected. "Every being deserves one. Every abandoned child deserves a chance. You taught me this." Over the next weeks, Dae-hyun watched as their work spread further. The institute graduated another class of students. They would go out into the galaxy, working as diplomats, teachers, advocates, spreading the idea that different didn't mean wrong. Kreshitar sent a message. The new Vrathka collective had established the first mixed species colony. Vrathka living alongside other races, learning from each other, growing together. It was small, just a few thousand individuals, but it was a start. Taeyang pushed through a new council resolution. Any species found abandoning young due to genetic differences would face sanctions. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, and the abandoned kept coming. Subin's transport service rescued more every month. Cubs, children, young ones of 100 different species, all thrown away for being different. All finding new homes, new families. Bora took in as many as she could. Her dwelling expanded, became a small village of its own. The first multi-species family unit in recorded history. Beings from different worlds, different biologies, different cultures, all choosing to be family together. One day, the Galactic Council announced something unprecedented. They were building a monument, not to a dead hero, not to a historical event, but to Bora, to a living being who had changed the course of history. "It's too much," Bora said when she heard. "I just did what felt right." "That's exactly why they're doing it," Daehyun said. "Because you showed the galaxy that doing what feels right is the most powerful thing any being can do." The dedication ceremony was enormous. Representatives from hundreds of worlds attended. The monument was beautiful, a sculpture of Bora with young ones of many species around her. The inscription read, "To Bora, who taught the galaxy that love knows no boundaries." But the moment that made Daehyun cry, that made the entire galaxy stop and watch, happened after the ceremony. A young Vrathka cub, one of thousands now being raised in bonded families, approached Bora. The cub looked up at her with yellow eyes full of admiration and love. "Mother," the cub said, in perfect galactic common. Bora knelt, bringing her massive head down to touch the cub's forehead. A gesture of affection she had learned from Daehyun all those years ago in that small lab on Kepler 9. And she cried, tears running down her scaled face. The galaxy's ambassadors watched in stunned silence as a Vrathka, the most feared predator species in known space, cried tears of joy. That night, back at the Institute, Daehyun sat with Bora in comfortable silence. They didn't need words anymore. After 5 years, they understood each other perfectly. "Do you ever think about that day?" Daehyun asked finally, "When I found you in that cargo pod?" "Every day," Bora said. "I was dying, alone, unwanted. You gave me life. More than life. You gave me purpose." "You gave me more," Daehyun said. "You showed me that one choice, one moment of compassion can change everything. I was just a scientist on a lonely station. Now look at what we've built." "We built it together," Bora corrected. "You and me and Hyunwoo and Jiwoo and Subin and Taeyang and Kreshitar and Youngja and all the others. No one changes the galaxy alone." She was right. It hadn't been just him. It had been everyone who chose to help, who chose to believe, who chose compassion over fear. But it had started with one choice. One human looking at a dying alien cub and seeing not a monster, but a child who needed help. Months later, Daehyun received a message from deep space. From traditional Vrathka territory. It was encrypted, barely got through the communication blackout the Empire maintained. The message was from a Vrathka elder, one of the council who had voted to kill all defective cubs. The message was simple: "You were right. Change cannot be stopped. My own grandchild was born with the defect. I could not kill her. Tell me how to help her." Daehyun sent back coordinates to the Institute, instructions for safe passage, a promise that the grandchild would be protected, and he knew. The galaxy was still changing, still learning. There would be more fighting, more resistance, more cubs who needed saving, but the tide had turned. Evolution was happening, not just in biology but in hearts and minds. That evening, as Daehyun watched Bora playing with her adopted family in the gardens, he thought about legacy. Not monuments or awards or recognition. Real legacy was this: children who would have died now laughing and learning, families that shouldn't exist now thriving, a galaxy that was slowly, painfully, beautifully learning that different didn't mean wrong. He thought about that scared scientist who had pulled a cargo pod from a debris field 7 years ago. The man who had broken every rule to save one life. That man would never have imagined this. Would never have believed one small act of kindness could ripple out so far, but here it was. Real and solid and growing every day. Bora looked up from her play and saw Daehyun watching. She made that rumbling sound she made when she was happy. Then she spoke, her translator carrying the words across the garden. "Thank you, Father." for giving me the choice to love.